Hey guys, it's Godbars here, the self-proclaimed hip-hop historian, and this is the 106th episode of my series, where I grab a vinyl from my collection, talk about why I love it, what influence it had, and what its place is in the grand scheme of hip-hop. This is one of the few projects that involves Wu-Tang members, or at least a Wu-Tang member, and is often affiliated with them. Yet to me, it's so different and unique from anything else Wu-Tang released that it kind of fits in its own separate category. Of course, there's plenty of dope Wu-related acts that fit under that wider umbrella of sound, like the Blackout album by Meth and Redman, or projects from acts like Kill Army, L.A. the Dark Man, and Shaheem the Rugged Child. There's actually an insane amount of groups and artists featured on the Wu-Tang Killa Bees roster, which to my knowledge is just what they call the wider group that all of these acts fall under. Gravediggaz actually are listed in the collective, at least they are online, and that's most likely due to RZA's involvement. However, for once you really can't call him the sole mastermind of this LP, as another member of this supergroup was Prince Paul, who seemed to have really been the catalyst for getting this group together, just as he was for De La. However, he took the positive, warm, and happy sound he showed the world on 3 Feet High and Rising, and went just about as far in the opposite direction as he could possibly go only a few years later. While acts like ICP technically were active at the time, I don't think they got any traction until nearly a decade later, so while they surely had a huge impact on horrorcore rap, I wouldn't say they were one of the pioneers who actually developed that sound. To my knowledge, the term horrorcore wasn't actually used until critics heard 6 Feet Deep's innovative blend of hardcore boom bap with heavy metal, and labeled them as this whole new genre. Of course, over in Memphis, DJ Spanish Fly was already making forward-thinking, groundbreaking records with dark, twisted, and chopped samples, but his early influence was mostly on other acts in the South like 3-6. I can't imagine that tape was getting too much play in New York during the late 80s, early 90s, so there wasn't much of a blueprint for these guys to go off of. Luckily, all 4 members were on the same page, and along with Paul and RZA, the other half of Gravediggaz included Quan and the late legendary MC 2 Poetic. However, to fully immerse themselves in the morbid, horror-themed aesthetic, they used mostly cemetery-themed aliases, with RZA as the Resurrector, Quan as the Gatekeeper, 2 Poetic as the Grim Reaper, and Prince Paul as the Undertaker, respectively. Even though the term horrorcore likely would never have even been brought into the vernacular without these guys, calling them a horrorcore act is vastly underselling how special and dope 6 Feet Deep is. It also isn't a term the members ever really embraced to my knowledge, at least I feel like I remember hearing Prince Paul and or RZA dismissing that notion. Honestly, when you think of most of the acts that represent that subgenre, it's kind of understandable why they wouldn't want to be associated with it so heavily, because it also kind of implies that what they do is separate from hip-hop, which is absolutely not the case. All the MCs are unarguably on the same page here, and RZA delivers what are some of my favorite verses he's ever laid down. I want to share a couple, the first being on Nowhere to Run, Nowhere to Hide, where he says, "I'm rapping you bastard, now prepare your casket. Death is the final step when y'all step to intercept the rep of a brother who has kept his status. Stop the madness, that is. I flow just to show that black, y'all can know that me being whack is like naps on Kojak. Eruptions of volcanoes occur when I speak. Try to twist my dialect and get caught like tornadoes." However, my top verse from the Resurrector here has to come on Diary of a Madman, where he gives us a masterclass on writing with the theme, especially a disturbing one. Rapping, "The year 84, November, May 10, overwhelmed by the wicked inspirations of an evil djinn. I realized my ideas had spawned from 400 years of blood, sweat, and tears. I saw the torture, brutal murder of my father, so my brain became stained with the horror. I'm having reoccurring nightmares of being soaking wet strapped down to the electric chair." He keeps this insane imagery the entire time he's spitting on this track, up until the climax at the end where he caps it off with, "Visions of hell tormented my fate, so I chewed my fucking arm off and made an escape." From bad trips on hallucinogens or purposefully laced weed, to pretty much staring the devil in the face, 6 Feet Deep is metaphorically the boatman who's guiding you further and further into the depths of this sonic underworld. A set of lines that perfectly encompass this experience come from the late legend Poetic, or the Grim Reaper in this context, with the first verse on the entire project. He leaves no confusion as to what the group's MO is, coming in with, "Making gravy pays my rent for the day, some hate the image that I must portray. Critics say, go to hell. I go, yeah, stupid motherfucker, I'm already here. Frustrated, mentally aggravated to be the rebel that society created. I'm good most times, but when I'm foul, then I'm flagrant, living in the shadows like a government agent." Even with so many morbid themes and risky concepts, Gravediggaz managed to have a decent amount of crossover with their 1-800-Suicide single introducing the "Suicide, it's a suicide" mantra, which has to be one of the most heavily sampled and referenced lines in the genre. It's moments like that one that display it isn't some non-stop, completely bleak experience here. There's a decent amount of dark or black comedy that definitely became a staple for many of the horrorcore acts that would follow them. Obviously, with a goat like RZA on your team, it would be a crime to not have him help on the boards, but when it comes to the real head behind this crew, you have to give that title to Prince Paul, aka The Undertaker. He really put the group together and saw the vision before anyone else, which is something you can actually say about multiple points in his insane career. There are a few other names that assisted production in one way or another, like Mr. Syme and R&S, but most of the featured artists come in the form of guest appearances. These include Wu-Tang affiliates like Shabazz the Disciple, Killah Priest, and Dreddy Kruger. For honorable mentions this time around, I'd go with 2 Cups of Blood, Defective Trip, Trippin', Blood Brothers, 1-800-Suicide, Bang Your Head, Here Comes the Gravediggaz, Death Trap, Graveyard Chamber, the title track, and Mommy What's a Gravedigger. My 3 favorite songs overall on this thing would probably have to be Diary of a Madman, Nowhere to Run, Nowhere to Hide, and Constant Elevation. Thank you for watching my 106th episode. Next time we're going back to Cali to discuss yet another Bay Area classic I feel isn't remotely as talked about as it should be. So tune in for that one, and if you enjoyed, be sure to like, subscribe, and let me know what your favorite songs to come off this album that pretty much produced an entire subgenre are. Don't forget to have a great day, and I'll see you next time, okay? Alright.